He is transported to a realm where humanity has been annihilated and no one remembers him. After humanity triumphed in a gruesome war, Kai's Sakura Vento is dispatched to a parallel universe where humans were vanquished in that battle. Confronting an entity uncertain whether it's an angel or a demon, the hero is astonished to see this being requesting assistance from him, a human. In his world, humanity fought an unending war against 4 enemy races, but in this alternate world, no one knows who he is. Flashback: before that happens, Kai disembarks from his vehicle to survey the crypt for exactly 300 seconds. Impatiently, his companions await the completion of the task because, methodical as always, he doesn't compromise on a single second. Through his binoculars, he observes one of the pillars of the conflict instigated by the demons, who wield immense magical power. On the other side of the trench, angels and elves, considered half-human celestial beings, and among them spirits, are deeply involved in this war. Creatures with special types of bodies, along with mythical beasts such as dragons, ravage the battlefields with their unmatched ferocity. Together with humanity, all these beings initiated a widespread conflict known as the Great War of the 5 Races. Kai, as one of the soldiers of the Urza Federation, cannot allow this clash to reignite. That's why he relentlessly monitors the crypt where the demons were sealed. After completing the 300 seconds of observation, the young soldier returns to the vehicle, frustrated. Ashran remarks that no demon has escaped the seal in 100 years, but Kai emphasizes that their duty as the Human Protection Agency is to ensure that it never happens. Ashran asserts that there are 4 crypts like this one around the globe, and it doesn't help if they're the only ones taking this task seriously. Saki, the woman on the team, tries to soothe their friend by assuring him that everything is peaceful, but he refuses to let his guard down for even a moment. After the journey, they return to Vishal and the Urza Federation. During one of the training sessions, alongside an unconscious Ashran, Kai uses a mythical beast combat dummy and is cautioned by the system that it's extremely hazardous to fight an opponent of this caliber as a low-ranking soldier. Ignoring the warning, the soldier attacks the mechanical beast's ankle but inflicts no damage. When the dragon is about to swallow him, Saki turns off the robot and halts the combat training. Worried, she warns that he will end up dead if he continues at this reckless pace, but Kai believes he needs to push his boundaries to make the practice worthwhile. For these reasons and more, the girl thinks that this boy would have gone down in history if he had been born during the era of the Great War of the 5 Races, just like the Prophet Sid. Kai feels honored by the compliment but doesn't see himself worthy of such an accomplishment, despite the legend being highly regarded among humans. The girl cannot fathom that a single man vanquished these 4 heroes. Hero of the demonic race, the Dark Empress Vanessa. Hero of the wild god race, the Lord of Heaven Alfreya. Hero of the spirit race, the Spirit Sovereign Rikijin Kyoko, and hero of the Phantom Beast race, the Fang Emperor Wrath A. Despite his partner's disbelief, Kai insists that Sid emerged victorious from this battle due to the shining sword bestowed by the prophetic god Asura Soraka. Nevertheless, she points out that there are no photos or videos of the human hero, unlike the others, so she remains skeptical about his existence. That said, she goes to give Ashran a wake-up poke in the ribs and asks the guys what they want to do to celebrate Jean's promotion. Ashran suggests a bouquet of flowers, but Saki points out that Jean is being transferred to the royal capital of Urzak at 17, the youngest in history to be selected, so a few shabby flowers won't do justice to such an achievement. Speaking of her, Jean sends a message inviting Kai to meet her tomorrow morning at Terminal 9 in front of the cat statue, but asks him to keep it a secret from Saki and Ashran. The 2 friends start teasing him about this secret romance, so he gets riled up and says he's going for a run. The next day, he meets Jean because she will be transferred next week and doesn't want to miss seeing her friend before then. Besides, she thought he was on leave despite the uniform indicating otherwise. He explains that he did his morning training and came straight over, so she replies that Kai is the only guy who isn't intimidated by the idea of shopping with her, and that's what she likes about him. Jean's plan is to purchase a gift for Saki and Ashran before heading to Urzak, as she suspects that all 3 of them are likely considering the same gesture, and this will be their final meeting. Kai believes this is an overstatement because the promoted one will return after 2 years of kata training in Vishal. However, Jean remembers that by that time, Saki and Ashran will have completed their military service and will transition back to civilian life. She thinks that only Kai will remain in Urza until then, and the boy shares this view. Proud of his friend, he assures her that she will surpass even her father in her career, the head of the Urza headquarters. This has been Jean's dream since she was a child and has driven all her pursuits in life. With that said, as they continue their outing, the 2 stop to grab a bite to eat, while Jean ponders what to get for their friends. After deciding, she thanks Kai for his company. During their conversation, she recalls when the boy got lost in the demon crypt at 10 years old when his father took him there for inspection. When he got home that day, Kai said he saw Sid's sword. He vividly remembers that day, falling into an absolute void surrounded by terrifying creatures until, in his free fall, a shining sword illuminated the path and drew the young Kai Sakura to it. Despite the trauma, Kai never shared this story with anyone else, believing no one would believe him. Since that incident, he has felt a personal responsibility to ensure those demons never escape the crypt. Because of this mindset, Jean believes the young man will still be with the agency for the protection of humanity in 2 years. Speaking of which, she asks him what he thinks the future holds beyond those 2 years. Before he can respond, Kai witnesses the world around him disintegrating in a static distortion. Amidst this chaos, a system announces that global reincarnation has been activated. Kai is then transported to an alternate reality where the buildings in his city, Vishal, have been obliterated, replaced by a dark, war-torn environment. Above it all, a colossal demon emerges behind the ruins and attacks him with magic. Managing to evade death, and without a moment to contemplate, Kai rushes to his rifle and fires at the demon's new spell with a modified elven bullet, neutralizing the spell and startling his adversary. Enraged, the creature charges at him again, requiring Kai to use his exceptional dodging skills. He overcomes the obstacles and strikes the demon with his bayonet, but its tough skin renders the blade ineffective. Kai then fires at the demon with a modified draconic bullet that mimics the breath of mythical beasts, causing a massive explosion in the target's body. Kai takes pride in executing the moves he trained to defeat a demon. Outraged, another evil entity appears, unable to believe a human had defeated one of its kind. Kai realizes this demon can speak human language remarkably well. The demon comments that the easiest way to control a slave is by communicating in their language, shocking Kai and making him realize he must be considered the scum of this world. The demon senses danger in Kai and prepares a lethal spell until Saki arrives in the Urza Jeep, throws a flash grenade at the entity, and rescues her friend. Kai calls out to Saki, but she doesn't understand how this stranger knows her name. Similarly, when Kai approaches Ashran, he too is puzzled by the boy's familiarity. Without comprehending anything, the protagonist recalls that the three of them were part of the same unit at the Agency for the Protection of Humanity. However, Saki also doesn't recognize this agency because she is a soldier of the Resistance, the rebel human army. Increasingly perplexed, Kai inquires about what happened to this world. The girl explains that there was a prolonged conflict called the Great War of the Five Races, and humanity was defeated over 30 years ago. Each city in the world was overrun by the enemy races, and since then, the surviving humans have been hiding as best they can. According to Ashram, the other races are still battling over the conquered territories, and the Urza Federation was taken over by demons, forcing all inhabitants to flee. However, utilizing an underground area that remained intact after the war, humans created a refuge to live in. Kai questions how humanity lost this battle, and the two resistance soldiers explain that they were no match for such formidable creatures, each race having its own hero, unlike humans. Kai asks about the prophet Sid, but neither of them has any clue who that is. The lost boy claims he is the hero who defeated the other four races, but Ashran believes he wouldn't be living underground if this person truly existed. Around the three, the main troop of the underground city arrives. As some cities still resist, each has a garrison supervised by the main troop. According to Saki and Ashran, the commander of this troop and the resistance is seen as a savior by the people of the Urza Federation. His name is Jean, an empathetic and charismatic leader, embraced by human civilization among the commanders. Jean inquires about the identity of the unknown soldier, and as his comrades explain, Kai is left speechless, realizing that even his closest friend is unaware of who he is. Unable to let it go, the boy shouts Jean's name, recalling that they were shopping just moments earlier. The commander, perplexed by this story, states that he doesn't recognize this soldier, then turns away and heads to a scheduled meeting. Unsatisfied, Kai questions why his friend is pretending to be a man, knowing her dream as a daughter was always to surpass her father's career. Fallon, one of the senior subordinates, grabs Kai by the wrist, but Jean asks her to let him go. After the commander's departure, Saki inquires what's going on in the boy's head, and Ashran offers his rune for Kai to rest and collect his thoughts. Upon arriving at Ashran's home, the visitor to this world can't think of anything other than why all this is happening to him. No matter how much he reads the documents, the only missing records are his and Sid's. What Kai doesn't understand is that if Prophet Sid never existed, there shouldn't be the four crypts to seal the four races. The next day, Kai questions his old friends about the crypts, but they know nothing of the sort. Faced with this, Kai borrows a car and promises to return by noon despite Saki's protests. Ashran reflexively tosses the key to the stranger, and Kai heads for the chaotic ruins of Vishal until he reaches the crypt he monitored in the original world. As he approaches the entrance, he encounters Prophet Sid's sword and wields it. A voice from the weapon decrees that the bearer of this relic has now become the code holder. The sword then opens a gate, which transports Kai to a mysterious platform. Upon climbing the stairs, he finds a half-angel, half-demon girl chained up. With some effort, the woman manages to say her name is Rin despite the bizarre situation she finds herself in. Kai doesn't want to risk freeing a demon, but since he can't just leave her behind, he hopes she won't attack. He uses his blade to break the chain, but nothing happens. He tries his rifle, but even a shot causes no damage. Kai imagines he could use the sword he found in the cemetery, and though it wasn't his intention, Sid's weapon appears in his hands, signaling it's the way. With a simple strike, the chains shatter, freeing the prisoner. Regaining consciousness, Rin is startled and pulls away from the human's lap, then angrily shouts the name Vanessa, demanding her return and claiming she hasn't lost this fight. Ignoring Kai, she declares she cannot be defeated by a mere lackey demon and attacks a human. After dodging the first spell, Kai sees a large mass of magical energy forming in front of him, ready to fly at him. When the system's voice indicates that the code bearer must cut off the fate of death using his blade, the young human slashes the entity's spell in half, leaving her incredulous. Rin questions how a weak demon could destroy her attacks, so Kai turns his back to prove he is human, as he has neither wings nor a tail. Realizing the situation, Rin apologizes for her behavior, explaining that her hatred for demons makes her act impulsively. As Rin claims not to be a demon, Kai asks about her species, but the woman doesn't seem comfortable with the question and asks to leave it aside. Accepting the terms, Kai now wants to know where they are, but Rin herself doesn't know as she was fighting Vanessa and simply ended up there, alarmed. The person asks if she is referring to the Dark Empress and heroine of demons, noting that this is no ordinary opponent. Rin confirms that she can destroy an entire army of demons, but emphasizes what she just witnessed from this young boy, who destroyed one of her spells. Kai was about to explain that the sword he carried was responsible when a robotic woman announces that the singular destiny entity has awakened, and that its threat level to the newly established world is enormous. Because of this, the robot activates the ceiling through the last risers. With that, the machine attacks Kai and Rin with all its power. As the structure around them collapses, they try to keep their distance, but the machine uses its portal to reach its targets and seize Rin. After doing so, it initiates Code Zero, where magical orbs are summoned and harm the victim's body. Seeing this, Kai refuses to remain still and uses Sid's sword to cut the metallic claw holding the singular destiny entity in half. The machine is shocked upon seeing the forbidden sword, and while Rin sees Sid's image reflected in Kai, the boy teleports them both to a distant safe location. Rin confesses her fear with a strong hug to her savior, a gesture to human returns. Analyzing the situation, he asks if the woman has any companions, and indeed she has none. In fact, it's the first time someone has done something like this for her. Both celestial spirits and beasts said that Rin is not like them, and the demons were the cruelest, ending in a duel with their leader, Vanessa. Similarly, Kai identifies with the entity's life story as no one remembers who he is in this world. As far as he knew, humans had won the Great War of the Five Races, but now he sees the city that was once his home crumbled into ruins. Rin admits she didn't know that, especially since just before fighting Vanessa, humans were starting to win the war after the appearance of a hero. Hearing this, Kai asks if the girl knows Sid, but she doesn't remember anyone by that name. Still, the man is pleased to have a companion and share a familiar story with someone. As they begin their journey, Rin faints, making the boy carry her on his shoulder. He says they need to pass through the city, and though she generally doesn't trust humans, she trusts Kai, so she goes with him. Later, already lying in bed, Kai feels the weight of his own body after the exhausting day. As if that weren't enough, on the way to the city, Rin panicked in the car, and though she can hide her wings from people, she still draws much attention with her strange behavior. Hearing Rin sing in the shower, Kai never imagined that other races knew how to sing. Suddenly, she runs out in a towel to alert him that the water has stopped flowing. Speaking of which, she considers humans very unfair for having hot water to bathe in, while all her life she had to bathe in the cold waters of rivers and lakes. Furthermore, Kay's bed is so soft, while she spent her entire life sleeping on underbrush and rocks. Nonetheless, as she now observed on the surface, this human city had decayed into ruins just as the man had mentioned. Even he struggles to believe he exists in a world where the historical results of the Great War have been reversed. Rin wagers they will discover a way out of there and return to their original world. For now, hope is the only thing sustaining them. When it's time to sleep, Rin lies in a warm bed for the first time while Kai tries to rest on the floor as best he can. However, his rest is interrupted when the girl alerts him to a strong magical presence in the vicinity, firmly stating that a demon is nearby. In fact, the city's public address system announces an enemy attack is occurring and all civilians must evacuate. Stepping into the street, Kai laments that even one of humanity's last refuges is in jeopardy, confirming his belief that his race is trapped with no one to rescue them. However, from what he experienced yesterday, he believes he might be the only person capable of at least mimicking Sid in wielding the forbidden sword. Armed with this trump card, he heads into battle. Meanwhile, Saki and Ashran are already on the front lines firing at the demons, but the creature's tough armor prevents them from being injured. Ashran asks his comrade to grab the machine gun. On her way, the girl is almost killed by one of the enemies, but Kai appears just in time to save Saki. After striking the demon hard, he tells her to use water against the opponents. When they absorb the liquid, their stone bodies become heavy, preventing them from flying. After that, it's a matter of bombarding the enemies until they turn to ashes. Speaking of which, it seemed like it was Ashan's turn to perish, but Kai manages to help just in time with Sid's sword in hand. With Ren's help, the duo manages to take down the last opponent, and the extraordinary ability of that entity makes the human realize she could indeed face Vanessa. Even so, part of the city is devastated and buildings housing the population are in flames. A terrified Saki and Ashan arrive with 1,000 questions about how Kai was able to do all that. He reveals that he came from a world where humans won this conflict, and the fighting style from his world, along with special ammunition or technological advancements, helped secure this victory. The two fighters from this universe were about to question the crazy story, but suddenly Ashan is informed by the surveillance team that 2 demon scouts escaped. Without delay, the fighter runs to alert headquarters, already foreseeing the worst because now the demons know where the refuge is and will return with even more units next time. Saki asks Kai to accompany them to HQ because Jin could use his strength in this war. On the way, Kai asks if the rebel army HQ of the Yakuza Federation isn't in the ruined royal capital, but Ashen believes that precisely because of this, the demons would never think humans are there. Saki explains that this idea originated from the former commander Jin's father, who retired 2 years ago due to an injury, passing the title to his son sometime later. At headquarters, the officers are incredulous that the man and the entity came from an alternate world where the war was won. Jin wants to know the connection between her and Kai in this different world since he spoke to her as if he knew her. Kai then explains they were childhood friends and Jin always said she wanted to be like Og and Jur. Hearing these names, Jin is astonished and abruptly ends the meeting. That night, Fallon knocks on Kay's door to inform him that the commander is waiting for him. Upon arrival, the boy sees his friend without her male disguise, and she reveals that only Fallon and the veteran directors know she is a woman. She then expresses surprise that Kai knows the nicknames of her father and grandfather, Og and Jur. For this reason, despite not believing everything, she considers the possibility that the stranger is telling the truth and asks for his help to contact the other 5 resistance centers and encircle the demons intending to invade the Mio Vashal refuge. Rin argues that even if the mission succeeds, it would only provoke the demons further, who would retaliate with even more force. But Jin sees no other option. Thus, Kai suggests they attack the royal capital, targeting the Dark Empress Vanessa. Believing the man to be mad, the commander reminds him that this demon was responsible for wiping out the entire capital defense army 30 years ago and seizing the palace. In response, Kai mentions Sid's tale, who single-handedly defeated the demon's champion, and feels he can do the same. Doubtful of the young warrior, the commander asks why he seems so eager to risk his life for this mission. Kai emphasizes that he saw Ashran and Saki risking their lives in battle, and even if he returned to his original world, he wouldn't be able to face them if he left them to die in the alternate world. Finally, he devises a plan based on the belief that demons are more concerned with other races than humans, so most of their forces are stationed near the borders, with probably only about 10% of their total forces in the royal capital. He suggests that while he fights Vanessa, the rebel army keeps these 10% occupied. Jin agrees they can hold the enemies for a while, but fears most of her troops will be dead before reaching the palace. In light of this, Fallon suggests they invade from underground because there is a subterranean railway line behind the palace that the royal family use as an escape route. Surprised, Jin asks why she wasn't informed about this railway before, and the fighter replies that Jin's father didn't want her to risk herself to that extent, so he asks the subordinates to omit this strategy. With that said, the commander announces a meeting to finally retake the Yakuza Federation. As preparations for the attack near completion, Rin reflects on her hatred for demons, spirits, mythical beasts, celestials, and humans. However, she despises herself the most for being a mix of all of them. Yet she acknowledges that Kai has never feared her, even accepting her, something she had never experienced before being used to hatred. Rin deeply wishes that this human does not die. As the battle vehicles depart, the rebel army of the Yakuza Federation heads toward the government palace through an underground passage to launch their attack. While the main group keeps the demons occupied, Saki and her team need to free the captives in the basement and take down Vanessa at the top of the hierarchy. Jin gives the orders and Saki sees in her leader the hope for victory. Her only worry is that she will be in the group facing the demon head-on. In a sudden outburst, she questions if the four members in the armored vehicle can complete such a difficult mission. Kai emphasizes that the priority is to reach Vanessa quickly and hold out until reinforcements arrive, not to storm the palace like Rambo. He trusts only Saki and Ashran to accompany him. Rin pats Saki's head to calm her, and to her surprise, Saki does calm down. Rin points out that Saki is strong enough to face the enemy forces. Although Vanessa is a tough adversary, if the Empress of Darkness refuses to die, Rin is ready to self-destruct and take the demon with her. Unfortunately, this doesn't reassure Saki. Similarly, Ashran admits his worry since the palace's state is unknown, especially with so many rebels moving around, increasing the chance of being discovered by enemies. Kai reminds them that demons are sensitive to magic and that humans lacking magical power could stay hidden until they reach their target. Ashran feels a bit relieved and mentions that all rebels will be remembered and perhaps even rewarded for this mission. Kai comments that Ashran seems stronger than the one from his original world, to which Ashran questions if that's a compliment. As they reach the end of the underground passage, Jean gathers the rebel army and thanks them for their trust. She praises their bravery and loyalty, acknowledging that many may feel insecure with little preparation time. However, she reminds them that the Urza Federation's resistance has faced years of battles against demonic domination, leaving each soldier battle-hardened. This resilience is key to freeing humanity from darkness. With that, the soldiers raise their weapons and shout a battle cry. After blowing up the passage exit, they reach the surface and see the government palace surrounded by demonic forces. The first act of defense is a freezing spell, but Kai knows how to dispel it. He shoots the demon and gets close enough to slash its skin with his sword. God explodes the enemy, and as soon as the first demon falls, more emerge to defend the palace. The Jewel of the Urza Federation fires a lightning bullet, taking down several at once. Ashran, in disbelief, questions if Kai was responsible for the massacre. Kai explains he used anti-group ammunition from his world. A mysterious stranger asks Rin to sense Vanessa's presence, and when the entity points to the Empress of Darkness's location, Kai decides to search the highest floor on the north side to avoid drawing attention. Jean plans to invade the palace using the emergency stairs on the south side with her team, while Group 1 guards the entrance to prevent demons from entering and Group 2 rescues prisoners in the basement. During the invasion, Fallon finds it strange that Kai calls the lightning bullet a projectile without pulling a trigger, but doesn't dwell on it as they climb the stairs. Rin identifies an imp, a small demon that summons large ones. A huge creature appears, grabbing one of the rebels, but Fallon quickly cuts off its fingers. She orders everyone to keep climbing while she holds off the demon. At the entrance, Group 1 fights off attackers and Group 2 reaches the prisoners in the basement. The main team marches on with their commander until she is struck by an electric trap, causing alarm among the soldiers. However, Jeannie emerges unharmed and reassures everyone, revealing she is protected by elven technology and her holy light suit. A huge demon approaches and Jean orders Kai and his unit to pursue Vanessa while she battles the demon with her squad, the Knight of the Holy Light. Meanwhile, Kay's group, wearing Rin's magical armbands that hide their presence, encounters a colossal creature. Seki's rifle trembles, but Rin calms her to prevent noise. Hidden by an invisible barrier, the humans breathe easy as the beast passes without noticing them. They head to a palace room with circuit breakers, where Ashran states that if Kai and Rin fail to defeat Vanessa, he and Saki will cut the lights to aid their escape. Shortly after, as Kai and Rin proceed, the palace alarm sounds despite Rin's barrier still working. Kai deduces the infrared sensors are still active and they hasten their pace. They meet a demon who insults Rin's wings and hints that Vanessa is intrigued by the invasion, though he doesn't directly answer Kay's questions about the surveillance system. Kai ignores the taunts and asks the demon for help finding their heroine. The monster, eager for a fight, attacks with fireballs. Rin quickly shields Kai with her wings and dodges the flames. She then isolates Kai from the battle with an ice wall, allowing him to continue towards Vanessa. The demons, puzzled by the mixed sense of angel, elf, dwarf, spirit, dragon, and even demon on Rin, ask about her identity, but she is unsure and only knows she despises them. Kai enters a throne room where Vanessa greets him, causing him to tremble. Meanwhile, Jean battles a massive demon and struggles against its armor until she transforms her weapon into a moon longbow, piercing the demon with a powerful arrow. The demon notes that Jean's use of elven magic is draining her life, suggesting she has chosen death to ensure humanity's victory. Jean confirms this by killing the demon. Another enemy attacks her, but Fallon arrives in time to fend it off. The three-headed hellhound, recognizing Fallon, mentions a human known as Dragonar who wields a dragon's fang in battle. Meanwhile, Vanessa asks Kai if he will put down his weapon like many others did upon learning that the demon leader is a succubus, allowing her to seduce him to pass the time. Kai rejects the offer, stating that demons are driven by madness and violence. Vanessa laughs, acknowledging his resistance as may fall prey to her charms. She then asks if the human present is the rebel commander in elven attire, but Kai says he is merely an outsider from a world where Vanessa was defeated. Curious, Vanessa inquires who defeated her, and Kai reveals it was the humans who face even greater threats. Vanessa laughs harder, finding it amusing that she was killed by a human. Kai clarifies it wasn't just any human, but the prophet Sid. At this, Vanessa loses her composure, as the name evokes unpleasant memories. She then attacks Kai with magic, but he easily dispels it. Without hesitation, he counterattacks and slashes her chest, only to find it was an illusion. The real Empress of Darkness nearly blasts him from behind. Vanessa praises his skill and his weapon, which mellifies magic and unleashes a dragon-like attack. This makes her start to believe that this person truly came from another world. Cautious, she calls upon Glory, a purgatory of flames which incinerates the wall behind the human. However, Kai escapes. Irritated, she vows to end the fight with a chaos explosion, which shatters the building's floor in a devastating blast. High in the skies, Vanessa believes no one can survive this attack unless they are a hero of the 5 races. Yet Kai stands before her, frightened but alive, imagining Sid's sword saved him again. Rin arrives, wounded and fearing Kai is dead, until a portal opens in the sky. Metallic claws grab Vanessa and a robotic voice announces the detection of unexpected fluctuations in the demon heroine. Hearing the name Sid, the robot initiates an excision to erase Vanessa's code from the world. But the Empress of Darkness counters with the Glory ability. Despite taking heavy damage, the robot retreats into the portal, leaving Kai and Rin terrified by Vanessa's power. Rin notes that Vanessa has always been strong, but this otherworldly version is even more terrifying. The Empress, irritated by her unhealed wounds, remains determined to crush her 2 opponents. Rin realizes she can't defeat Vanessa alone. Before Vanessa attacks, Rin flies at her, tackling her, and tells Kai to run away because she can't hold Vanessa back for long. Rin creates a shadow prison barrier around herself and Vanessa to stall for time. Vanessa recognizes the magic as weak spirit magic and easily breaks free, sending Rin flying. Before Vanessa can finish her off, Kai charges at her. He manages to block most of her attack, but he still ends up severely injured. Rin is devastated, believing Kai is dead, while Vanessa taunts her, asking if she plans to avenge Kai or flee. Fed up with Vanessa, Rin vows to make her pay. She unleashes her full power, transforming and displaying traits of all 5 races. Amused, Vanessa notes Rin's newfound strength, but questions why Rin didn't use it earlier to help Kai escape. Rin, no longer playing games, lands a solid punch on Vanessa, matching her power. However, Vanessa was only toying with her, and finds Rin's chaotic form intriguing, questioning whether Rin was afraid to reveal her true nature or feared being labeled a monster. Rin starts to cry, but Vanessa tells her that she only has herself to blame. Vanessa, being the demon hero, will do whatever she wants. Rin had the chance to save Kai, but hesitated out of fear, which led to Kai's death. As much as Rin hates to admit it, Vanessa is right. Kai's death is her fault. However, that doesn't matter anymore because nothing can bring Kai back. Now Rin just wants to die and plans to take Vanessa with her. She grabs Vanessa's hand to cast a curse, and before Vanessa realizes it, droplets of blood start to seep from her skin, draining her life force. No amount of defense can stop this. The droplets will keep falling until both Vanessa and Rin die. Normally, this would mean defeat for Vanessa, but she has one last trick. Rin suddenly collapses, and Vanessa explains that the curse relies on the caster's magic power. Although Rin would usually have enough magic to succeed, they're in Vanessa's territory, where she set up defenses against other races. A large curse circle affects spirits, magical beasts, and celestials, making it 3 times as potent on Rin, who's a mix of all 3. It's amazing that Rin lasted this long, but now she can avenge Kai. She simply sits and apologizes for failing him. Vanessa is fed up with Rin's pitiful attempts, so she gets ready to finish her with a final blow. However, just before Rin could be defeated, the attack is deflected by Kai, who is surprisingly still alive. Kai reassures Rin that she did nothing wrong and that her fight with Vanessa gave him enough time to wake up. Rin and Vanessa are both shocked to see Kai alive, so Vanessa asks how he survived an attack that should have been fatal. Kai explains that he used the code holder to shield himself from the blast, marking the 2nd time it saved him during this battle, but he keeps this information to himself and gets ready to face Vanessa again. Vanessa feels insulted that Kai would dare to challenge her and reminds him that he only survived by luck. Her last attack almost killed him, and Rin's interference was the only reason he wasn't finished off. Kai responds that he's determined to win because Rin risked her life for him, and he plans to do the same for her. Intrigued, Vanessa asks if Kai has a plan to defeat her, as she is curious to see what he can do. Humans always claim they will show her their potential, but she has never been impressed. The spirit hero, the celestial hero, and the beast hero are all annoyances to her, but she at least respects their strength. When it comes to humans, she finds no one worthy of her respect except for Kai, who claims he can be strong enough to become humanity's hero. Kai tells her that he doesn't want to be a hero, but agrees to show her the potential of humans. He will now face Vanessa as a representative of humanity. Although Vanessa doubts Kai can defeat her, she decides to take him seriously and uses her magic to summon a small meteor to crush him. However, Kai easily slices it apart using the code holder. Impressed by his ability to cut through her magic, Vanessa is not finished yet. She begins casting hundreds of hellfire spells. While she does this, Kai contacts Ashran to cut the power, plunging the building into darkness. Vanessa realizes she can't see even with a flame on her shoulder and can't sense Kai because he has no magic. Yet she targets his sword with her hellfire attack as it's full of magic. As the dust clears, she is shocked to find that Rin was holding the code holder and Kai is already behind her. Kai's years of training finally pay off as he attacks Vanessa and has Rin throw him his sword so he can defeat her. As Vanessa collapses to the ground, her body begins to fall apart from the damage she has endured. Rin and Kai notice that something is wrong with her, and it's at this moment that Vanessa's memories finally come back to her. She now remembers everything about Sid and the world's reincarnation. She can't believe she allowed herself to fall victim to it, even though Sid had warned her it might happen. Upon hearing that Vanessa knows about Sid, Kai asks her to share everything she knows. Vanessa explains a phenomenon Sid had called the world reincarnation. Someone triggered this reincarnation to change the course of history, and Kai must find this person. It's likely to be one of the other three heroes. Sid had predicted the world reincarnation, which is why he entrusted Vanessa with his sword to prevent it from being stolen by the enemy. The sword is the only key to fixing the changes made to this world. Kai questions why Vanessa and Sid would work together when they are supposed to be enemies. Vanessa admits that although she once fought Sid, he earned her respect as a strong fighter, and they ended up working together. There is much about the previous reality that Kai doesn't know, so Vanessa warns him about the Zero Code, a type of magic that is extremely difficult to handle. She also tells Kai that he did well against her, and she is impressed with his strategy to use the darkness, as well as his courage and fighting skills. She is now convinced that this is what Kai meant by human spirit, but she still feels frustrated about losing to him in this way. She can't make excuses, but she would love to face Kai again. So she tells him that next time they meet, she'll have a lot more fun with him. Kai is speechless after hearing this from Vanessa, but the exhaustion from the fight soon catches up with him and he falls to his knees. Despite this, he feels relieved to have defeated Vanessa. News of Vanessa's defeat quickly spreads among the human survivors and they gather at the Urza Foundation to begin reclaiming it. Things are finally looking up for humanity. While everyone celebrates this victory, Kai is deep in thought about his next move. Rin asks if something is wrong and he shares his concerns. He had thought that something happened to them, making them the only ones who remember the old world. But if Vanessa's words are true, the world changed and they remain the same. Rin wishes things could go back to how they were as she finds this new world scary. Kai agrees but doesn't know how to change things back. Just then, Jean approaches Kai and Rin to express her gratitude. Though the city is in ruins, the humans could reclaim it thanks to Kai and Rin's efforts. Jean thanks them on behalf of the rebel army. Jean can't help but notice that Kai and Rin don't seem very happy despite their victory. Kai tells her he is actually relieved they won because he doubts he could beat Vanessa if they face her again. With Vanessa gone, humans can now rebuild the city, possibly making it better than ever. However, Jean feels that the restoration should be led by those who experienced the Federation's initial fall to the demons, not by her. When Kai and Rin ask what she plans to do if she won't help rebuild, Jean explains there are 3 other federations, Io, Euron, and Schultz, that were conquered by other races. Each federation has a human rebel army fighting back. Jean intends to unite these rebels into a larger force. News of Vanessa's defeat has already spread, motivating humans across the continent. Jean hopes Kai and Rin will join her in aiding the other rebel armies. By working together, they might achieve what Kay's original world's humans did and overthrow the other races. Jean will lead the soldiers, ensuring Kai and Rin have all the support they need, and she wants Kai to fight alongside them. Kai looks surprised for a moment, so Jean quickly adds that he will be well rewarded for his heroic efforts. It's not that Kai doesn't want to help humanity win the war. He was just reflecting on how mature this version of Jean seems. In his reality, Jean was an amazing person but had a childish side, doing things like calling him during training, asking him out on shopping trips, and worrying about her future with friends. It's hard for Kai to imagine this Jean doing those things. Kai agrees to join Jean in fighting the other races and freeing humanity. They shake hands as a sign of cooperation and head to the ground floor. Jean addresses the soldiers, asking if they've rested well. The soldiers, full of energy, are excited because it's the first time they've slept without fear of demon attacks. They're thrilled to have reclaimed Urza. Jean then outlines the plan to reclaim the other federations. Meanwhile, Kai talks to Rin, telling her he plans to end the war of the 5 races himself. If this world lacks a hero to save it, he will step up and be humanity's champion. He also vows to find the person responsible for the world's reincarnation and restore it to normal. As Rin fled from the ominous machine pursuing her, she briefly imagined a hero saving her, though it was just a fleeting fantasy. Ashran, aboard the rebels' armored vehicle, shivered, fearing he'd catch a cold before reaching the Io Federation. Jean led the convoy of vehicles with little tolerance for complaints, while Seiki reminded them of the urgent plea for help from other federations. Their convoy carried humanity's last hope. Kai hoped the capital was rebuilt by the time they arrived, and Rin prayed the city was safe from demons. Before leaving Urzak, the fighters had organized to rebuild the crucial region for humanity. But Rin sensed demons closing in, forming a barrier around the central palace. Vanessa's sister soon identified the one who had sent her sibling back to hell. Kai shielded himself from a demon attack using his Code-Bearer ability, but Rin had to step in to protect him. The demon, Heimeril, introduced herself, and Kai felt her presence was as powerful as Vanessa's. She believed Vanessa's defeat was due to a series of miracles, and that it wouldn't have occurred if she had been at the battle. Kai suspected she sought revenge for her sister, but Heimeril laughed, revealing that Vanessa's absence elevated her to the top of the demon hierarchy, despite her affection for the Dark Empress. She was actually grateful to the human for getting rid of Vanessa. She then brought up the business matters she came to discuss. Heimeril mentioned that if the demons united, they could retake the capital whenever they wanted, but they were letting the humans keep Urzak intentionally. The deal was to allow the humans to hold the city in exchange for a truce, and the fighter agreed to relay the proposal to his commander. Heimeril mocked Rin, telling the chaotic entity to stop staring at her, which enraged the being. Heimeril hoped the humans would fight against the other 3 races, planning to use them to attack while the demons recover from their recent defeat. She openly admitted this and promised the soldier a kiss if he succeeded in his mission. She also warned them to be cautious of Lord Alfreya in the Celestial Lands, who had been acting oddly. After this, Kai mentioned in the armored vehicle that the reconstruction unit was responsible for a dangerous Urzak, and being part of the expedition unit, he and the other team members had to work with the Io Federation to defeat the Celestials, Elves, Dwarves, Fairies, and Angels. Kai believed these races were more cunning and cowardly than humans, with their powerful magical items for war. While humans saw demons as monsters, the Celestials were like superior beings. Meanwhile, Jean informed everyone over the radio that they would stop to rest in 2 miles. Suddenly, Rin warned of a mythical beast approaching. Kai alerted all vehicles as a dragon descended from the skies, its massive wings stirring the air, while the humans responded with their automatic rifles. Despite this, the mystical creature's resilient hide left it unscathed as it advanced, soon poised to strike down the first armored vehicle with its tail. It wasn't until a lightning-fast bullet was unleashed, followed by a coordinated assault with Rin, that the adversary sustained significant damage. Though not fatal, it was enough to force the dragon to retreat. At that moment, Jean ordered the entire convoy to halt to rescue groups 29 and 30, which had been attacked by the mythical creature. Later, during the rest period, Kai felt uneasy about occupying such a large tent with only Rin. However, she would likely feel tense around unfamiliar humans, which may explain why Jean allowed her to stay alone with him. Just then, the commander arrived with Fallon to express gratitude for Kay's excellent work on the hilltop, explaining that this tent was reserved for the High Command, with 2 soldiers acting as the commander's bodyguards. Fallon then called Kai, assigning him to the interior guard, as Jean risked being revealed as a woman if she stayed too long with another woman, needing to remove her armor to sleep. The trusted officer instructed the soldier not to make any sudden moves upon seeing the commander in her casual attire. Kai felt insulted as a professional soldier on duty, but as he entered, reality began to dawn on him. Rin was giving Jean a back massage to alleviate her pain, and Kai seized the opportunity to comment on how challenging it must be to maintain the pretense of being a man. Shifting the topic, he mentioned that he hadn't anticipated encountering a mythical beast in the Urza Federation, speculating that they might have come to explore the area after hearing of the Dark Empress's fall. Jean reassured her subordinate, reminding him that defenses had been established in the royal capital and that the post wouldn't be easily overtaken. She mentioned she moved around a lot in her sleep, warning the soldier in case she accidentally kicked him during the night. The tent was spacious but didn't have room for 3 in the bed. At dawn, the convoy set off to continue its mission. Ashran figured Kai didn't get much sleep being the commander's bodyguard. Exhausted, Kai agreed while watching the scenery. Rin noticed a structure resembling the Great Wall of China, and Saki explained it was the border wall, indicating they were near the Io Federation, which Jean confirmed over the radio. The convoy's destination was the 8th city, Cassiopeia, near the regional army's headquarters. By late afternoon, they passed through the ruins of once thriving cities. Sakura raided her rifle, eager to strike any celestials, but Kai reminded her that humans and celestials look similar, so she could accidentally shoot an ally. The commander ordered the convoy to stop and continue on foot. Rin gathered local fruits despite Kei's concern about their safety. Though the fruit made her tongue numb, Rin loved the taste, dismissing Kei's suspicion of poison by saying she had eaten it before in the elf forest. Jean explained that the forest had buried a human city due to the celestial invasion. When the convoy arrived in Cassiopeia, they were warmly welcomed by the locals and soldiers, a reception so warm that it suggested the threat might be more serious than anticipated. One of the men steps forward and introduces himself to the commander as Zephyr Bakenhain, advisor to Cassiopeia. He mentions that the victory of the Knight of the Sacred Light has spread hope throughout the Io Federation. Zephyr then greets Fallen, expressing his admiration for joining a legendary rebel soldier like her, though she humbly disagrees, not considering herself old enough for such a title. Jean asks to be taken to Dante, the city's commander. On the way, Zephyr inquires about what Phelan knows of Dante, and she shares that he is Dantgelf Alighieri, a descendant of Io Federation royalty who views himself as an emperor. Zephyr agrees with her assessment, acknowledging that Dante is a jealous and distrustful man who sees Jean as a threat. However, Zephyr also asks the commander to recognize that Cassiopeia celebrates her arrival, even if Dante does not. They are soon greeted by Kuberi, the assistant commander, who informs them that all matters must go through her first. Upon entering Dante's office, he complains about the reinforcements' late arrival, accusing Jean of intentionally delaying. Jean explains that their convoy was attacked by a mythical beast, causing delays, but Dante dismisses her explanation and questions why she is in another country after reclaiming her royal capital, suspecting she aims to steal Io's army to enhance her glory. The comment is aimed squarely at the commander, but she stays composed, explaining that Dante himself requested her forces' help. He replies that it was his subordinates acting on their own, but the commander suspects he's still resistant to being dominated by celestial beings. She asserts that individual glory is insignificant compared to the present danger. She advises the self-proclaimed emperor that credit for repelling the invaders belongs to neither of them, but to the people and their army. Finally, she bluntly tells Dante that if he desires honors, he should act accordingly. After this tense exchange, the reinforcements join the Io officers. Zephyr informs them that the Elf Forest, Dwarf Village, Fairy Hideout, and Angel Court are considered unexplored by humans as they have no idea where the celestial hero is. Jean takes charge of the search for Alfrea, impressing Dante's subordinates, who start to envy her bravery. She requests reinforcements from the Io army, but the local leader refuses. Anticipating his stubbornness, Jean declares that she came to lay down her life for those defending their land, gaining the trust and respect of the Federation's soldiers. That night in their camp, the Urza army suffers through a terrible dinner. Kai's group discusses Dante's assistant Kuberi, as Rin notices something strange about her. At dawn, the soldiers head to the Elf Forest. Dan remarks to his loyal assistant that Jean is a reckless commander, with Kuberi, as usual, agreeing, irritated that the other soldiers are inspired by the intruder's recklessness. When Jean returns from her expedition, she intends to create a map of the forest and organize a strategic meeting the following day. The commander discloses the elves' patrol routes based on tracks they discovered the previous day, and this intelligence enables the initiation of an assault against the Celestials. Although the Io soldiers are eager for battle, Dante is far from happy to see his troops being influenced by Jean's charisma. Kuberi advises her leader to achieve a significant accomplishment to secure his status as emperor, suggesting that he personally lead the soldiers in the Elf Forest. Embracing the idea, Dante informs his advisor that he has already deployed a flying unit to scout the Elf Forest. Zephyr believes this could cause tension in the coordination between the Urza and Io armies, but Dante is unconcerned. Additionally, he orders this operation to remain confidential. Meanwhile, Rin suspects that Dante's assistant commander, Kuberi, may not actually be human. Meanwhile, at the top of an odd structure, a strange figure with a metallic doll on its back approaches some clerics. They try to defend themselves, but the Great Elder is paralyzed and another mage is knocked down, though he survives the fall. An elf wakes up in a cabin and hears several voices in her mind through telepathy. The voices are relieved that Priestess Riran is alive, but they are still very worried about the Great Elder. Riran asks everyone to stay calm, promising to explain everything as soon as she meets with the fairies and dwarves. One voice asks what to do with the captured humans, but the priestess didn't even know about this. As for Jean, the last contact with Dante was yesterday morning when communications were cut off and no one knows where he is. Kai thinks Dante is being influenced by someone and quickly suspects his assistant Kuberi, imagining she might be a spy for the elves. If that's true, there could be more enemies within Io's army, making it important for Urza's unit to investigate. They find dozens of idle rifles scattered on the ground, possibly indicating that Dante and his battalion walked into a trap. A magical circle is drawn on a nearby tree, though Jean doesn't find this trap particularly difficult to notice. However, Kai points out the real danger above them. Looking up, Jean sees countless leaves, each with a different magical circle, and realizes the intelligence of the celestial beings. If Kai hadn't pointed it out, she might have mistaken the circles for sunlight filtering through. Kai mentions that there were records in his world about this technique, which allowed him to recognize it in advance. He mentions that elves set many traps close together. Rin detects the scent of an elf nearby, putting the group on high alert. Following Kai's lead, the group questions if he truly knows the way, but he reassures them that Rin has special training to sense magic. Guided by the scent, the team reaches a ruined structure, where the scent suddenly vanishes, triggering a teleportation spell that transports them to another part of the forest. Saki accuses Ashran of touching her Ji-Yat, but he insists she was the one brushing against him. Fallon orders them to stay quiet, scanning the surroundings. Suddenly, a fairy appears, crashes into Ashran's leg, and after recovering, asks which forest he came from, mistaking him for an elf. When he explains they are humans, the fairy flees in fear of being eaten, and quickly reaches an elf-guarded village. As the humans arrive, the elves ready their arrows, but their leader orders them to stand down. The elven leader, surprised that humans activated the portal, exchanges words with Jean, who recognizes her as Kubari, Dante's assistant commander. Jean inquires about Dante's fate. Kubari informs them that everyone is alive, but they've inhaled dust from a colony of paralyzing plants, leaving them immobile for days. Jean demands the prisoners' release, but the elf insists the humans must fight against the angels. Kai questions this, noting elves and angels have been allies, but Kubari reveals they were betrayed. Ririn awaits them, so they follow the elf to the village. When they meet the priestess, she notes it's the first time humans have entered the elven village, but it doesn't mean they're welcome. Curious, she asks if the Holy Light Knight and his men truly defeated Vanessa, the Empress of Darkness. Jean confirms, adding that the armor she wears is an elven garment found 10 years ago after defeating demons. With no elves harmed, Ririn lets it go and proposes a deal. If the prisoners are freed, Jean and her troops must rescue the Great Elder from Lord Alfrea. Kai is shocked that the celestial hero captured such an important figure, and Ririn, puzzled, recalls Alfrea as once kind and warm, until he decided elves, dwarves, and fairies should bow to the angels, sparking a revolt. She had accompanied the Elder to appeal to Alfrea, but he refused and captured the Elder. Kai wonders if an elf could directly challenge the angels and carry out the rescue. The priest agrees, but Phelan warns that it could be a trap, with elves and angels combining forces to crush the human resistance. To prove the priestess's honesty, Kubari offers her life, willing to accompany the men to the angels' palace. If they find Ririn has lied, they can kill Kubari at any time. Despite her brave offer, Phelan refuses, stating that the life of the elven priestess isn't worth more than the 6 human fighters and the 20 hostages. To balance the risk, Ririn insists on offering herself as collateral, despite Kubari's devastation over the potential loss of the Great Elder. Ririn is firm, saying it's the only way to avoid a war between celestial beings. She orders the nearby dwarves and fairies to hold off on attacking. Then Ririn summons the small fairy, Silk, who casts a spell that brings large waves closer to shore, providing a place for the humans to rest while details are discussed. As night falls, Kai watches Rin sleep by their campfire. Ririn, puzzled by the humans staying awake without lighting a fire, assures them that neither she nor any elf intends to attack. Kai relaxes slightly. Ririn then mentions she heard from Jean that the boy and the sleeping girl were the ones who defeated Vanessa, and asks if their methods could work against Alfrea. Once they arrive at the Palace of Angels, there may be a clash with the Celestial Lord. If no one can halt the Lord's power, everyone will perish. She rises and warns Kai that if he ever flees in fear, she won't let him leave the forest alive. Although she understands that Kai doesn't have the answers she's looking for, he still asks if she knows anything about a human called the Prophet Sid. The priestess is clueless, further diminishing Kai's hopes of uncovering the truth about this legend. He recalls that Vanessa mentioned the prophet's name and a global reincarnation Sid predicted, urging Kai to find whoever triggered it, as it would drastically alter the world. According to the Dark Empress, the culprit is likely one of the 3 remaining heroes. As dawn breaks, the humans gather in search of Unit A, designated to enter the Angel's Palace. Seki hopes that communication with headquarters will function during the mission since, as the elf noted, the palace sits atop a colossal tree and the humans can't even see it from their current position. Ririn conjures a teleportation trick to transport their new allies, leading Kai to ask if the elf is practicing this method against the humans. The cleric explains that no one fears humans, only demons, spirits, and mythical beasts. In response to this dismissive comment, Kai remarks that demons once thought the same. However, he adds that the angels likely have most of their forces at the border, so the palace may be weakly defended. As the man speaks with unwavering resolve, the elf admits they didn't defeat Vanessa by luck. Kai adds that he knows a human who single-handedly defeated the 4 heroes of the other races. With that, the spell activates, teleporting the group to the top of the tree where the Angel's Palace is located. The air is thick with the smell of fire and smoke, and burning angels surround the humans. Ririn notices the victims aren't dead, but Kai believes they should use the situation to their advantage as the path ahead is clear. Guided by the priestess, they navigate the palace's levels, something Fallon acknowledges would be impossible without her. However, as they move deeper, a small, cutting tornado attacks them, destroying the floor. At the source of this power stands an angel who recognizes an old acquaintance, Ririn. Seeing the war angel Vicious fills the elf with sorrow, realizing even the angels she trusted had betrayed her race. Vicious, now a servant of Alfrea, the Lord of the Heavens, declares that everything must follow his will. The Burm angels were traitors who opposed the Great Leader's orders. Vicious warns that the Great Elder of the Elves will soon be executed, serving as a warning to the other races that they must submit to the angels. Resisting this demand as well, Fallon leads Ashran and Saki in battle against the angel while Kai, Jean, and Ririn continue their mission. Viciously attempting to obstruct the humans' progress, the angel is thwarted by the shooters, successfully preventing her from reacting. It's absurd to think that this lesser race is challenging the angels, and Fallon sharply replies that they've heard enough of that before. On the floor above, the group assigned to continue the mission encounters another angel guarding the area. Rin seizes the entity's enormous hammer to avoid being crushed and hurls the enemy away. Ririn recognizes this being as Raffaello, who is enraged by the elf's defiance against his master. This time, Rin confidently states that she can handle the threat alone, urging the rest of the group to proceed without hesitation. The remaining 3 members advance to the next floor, where Ririn creates magical circles on each pillar. Kai realizes that Alfrea is protecting himself with numerous barriers, while Jean apologizes to him for leaving the battle against Vanessa to him. She promises to fight alongside him next time. Once the circles are inscribed, the elf activates her power and transports the duo to the location where the Great Elder was imprisoned. In addition to the Elder, Alfrea floated in the sky, demanding submission from the lesser beings who lack wings and must gaze upward at the heavens. According to him, all blessings descend from the heavens and are bestowed upon the earth, but he desires that only the angels receive these blessings. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out this video about a magicless boy who trains hard to impress a baddie in a magic academy.